you said famously, "I don't feel ready in my heart to be president." 4 years later, do you feel ready in your heart?
I'll have to figure that out.
When do you think you might do that?
Oh, the next number of months. I think, Mary Pat and I have to start to talk about it in earnest and make a decision.
Governor Chris Christie, there he was today on Today, insisting this morning is a day to celebrate his fellow governors, not to look ahead to that next big election now, just 734 days away, not that anybody's keeping track. But with the midterms in the rearview mirror, all the attention now focused on 2016 and the folks likely to throw their hats into the ring. Of course, Hillary Clinton among those folks, but exit polls we took last night show us that she's got some work to do if she decides, in fact, to run for the White House. Up against an unnamed Republican candidate, here's what we found. Clinton comes up 6 points short. 24% say their vote depends on who's running. Just 42% say Clinton would make a good president. 52% say she would not. Among Republican voters, Jeb Bush fared best, 49% saying he'd make a good president. 41% said the same of Rick Perry. Oops. 39% of Rand Paul and 34% of Governor Chris Christie. Amy Chozick follows the Clintons as a national political reporter with the New York Times. Also with us right here in studio, Washington Post, Chris Cillizza. Chris, we'll get to you in a second. Amy, we start with you. Is there reason for Hillary Clinton to be worried by some of those numbers, or do we sort of simply chalk them up to the fact that this is what polls showed during a Republican wave election?
Well, I think last night's election showed that it wasn't just a referendum on Obama, it was a referendum on incumbents, and that is the climate that Hillary Clinton would enter in a 2016 presidential campaign. Can she present herself as sort of the anti-incumbent, the anti-Washington candidate when she has been around for decades and people so associate her with Washington? And probably those polls are reflecting some of that frustration with just the Washington establishment of which Hillary Clinton is associated.
Chris, give us your take on that. For one thing, Hillary Clinton's not going to get a lot of help in places like North Carolina and in Colorado. Well, all of a sudden, these states turned red.
So, two things. One, I would say anytime in the exit, we don't get to decide what the exit poll asks, but anytime you say, would you like Peter Alexander or fill in the blank other person who might even be greater than Peter Alexander. Hard to imagine, I know. But
kind of you.
Point being, the generic candidate thing, I think, skews it a little bit. That said, Amy is 100% right. Hillary Clinton's greatest strength is that she's Hillary Clinton. Her greatest weakness is that she's been Hillary Clinton for a very long time. These are people who have been in the national spotlight.
Kentucky, Arkansas, though, these were places that they were thinking they might do something.
Yeah, that was always ridiculous. I mean, I understand Bill Clinton thinks he has a special connection, and Hillary Clinton think they have a special connection to Arkansas. Arkansas today, and this has been made very clear, Arkansas today is not the Arkansas that elected Bill Clinton governor. So I would say her biggest problem yesterday for president is the fact that she's been around so long. Elections are about the future, not the past. Her biggest problem today is the exact same problem.
Amy, what are you focused on the Republican side right now? Rand Paul speaking prominently last night. Chris Christie up early to speak on television. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody's about getting things done, and it looks like, the energy, as it were, the young energy, frankly, appears to be on the Republican side.
Yeah, and you certainly saw Rand Paul capitalizing on Hillary Clinton's presence in Kentucky and then McConnell's big win there, saying, she doesn't have the pull in the state that she thinks she does. So I think we're going to see that. The Republican side is definitely going to be riding this wave. The question is, how long can they ride the anti-Obama sentiment, turn it into pro-something, a different message? And I think we'll be looking at Hillary Clinton establishing her message as well, trying to look like that anti-incumbent and kind of ride that sentiment. And there's a lot of economic anxiety that I also think that she and the Republicans need to address in their messages moving forward.
The anti-Bush anxiety served the Democrats pretty well for quite a long time, right? Well, give me a sense, though, Chris, as we look at the Democrats right now, what's striking is all of a sudden, as someone tweeted a short time ago, the Democrats kind of look like the Yankees. They've got some big wins and they've got a lot of money, but they've got some aging stars. They don't have all the fresh young faces, the Scott Walkers, even John Kasich, fairly young as it goes, and Cory Gardner that the Republicans now are boasting.
Right. The only person who we talk seriously about running for president on the Republican side who is of Hillary Clinton's generation is Jeb Bush. Right. He's in his early 60s. Rand Paul is 50. Marco Rubio's in his early 40s. So if it's not Jeb Bush,
Hillary's the old lady on the ticket.
So the hard thing for Hillary Clinton is not only does she have what is a very long career in public service, but there will also be, and I'm not sure Republicans will drive the she's too old for office contrast, but they will say, look, we've been down this road. We've gone Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. Do we want to go back to Clinton? And I think that contrast will be apparent. I also think it's a reason why Republicans who think nominating Jeb Bush is their secret to success might be wrong, because I think that generational, we need different people, we need people who came of age in a different time, could be powerful. She is a very, very strong force in the election, Peter, but there are weaknesses.
Amy, what does Clinton, and we only have a little bit of time left, what does Hillary Clinton do now?
That's a good question. I think for the next 3 months, she, as I've heard from her people, she'll probably lay low. There's less political activity to do. She'll probably lay off the paid speeches, which don't look so good once you're running for president. And I think that she, continues her foundation work, and she starts to quietly lay the groundwork for a campaign. There's been some questions about whether she would form an exploratory committee this year. I think that looks unlikely, given that there's still a runoff in Louisiana. She doesn't want to be seen as a candidate before the midterms are officially over. But I think that she does start laying that groundwork in the next few months.
Time to get to know your grandchild, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a couple months here. I mean, she's going to do what she's been doing, which is basically wink and nudge and say she's running for president. Amy's right, though. I think she waits until after that December 6th runoff, which means you wait until the new year, because you're not going to announce between December 6th and the holidays.
Is Jeb Bush her opponent?
I don't think so. And I would say that even if he runs, I think Jeb Bush is not where the Republican Party is today. I would say my view is probably the minority opinion. I'm not in the majority here, but I think that people have underestimated Rand Paul for a long time. I think John Kasich is an interesting figure now. Even Scott Walker, the guy's won 3 gubernatorial elections in 4 years in a swing state. First governor to win win a recall and then win re-election. Now, he didn't win overwhelmingly, but that's a pretty, put that record up against a lot of people. The field is going to be big. I'm not convinced Jeb runs, and I'm definitely not convinced he wins if he does.
Amy, who's the Republican?
Well, I know Clinton World is the most worried about Jeb, so Chris's insight's really interesting on that. I think that they see that those two as fighting over money, Wall Street fighting over moderate votes, so they're most worried about that. But it'd be really interesting if suddenly it's a Rand Paul and the Republican Party's reversed it and they have the fresh, young voice.
Interesting. We'll be watching. Amy Chozick, always nice to see you on a Wednesday morning. Thank you very much. Chris Cillizza, post-election.
We made it.
Right, we did it. God bless. 734 more days to the next one.
Cross it off in the calendar.
That's going to do it for this edition of the Daily Rundown. Coming up next.